Thank you very much. Very good to see all of you here today. Hello, bonjour.
We have 3 full days, but we're hoping really there will be enough time for everyone to know everyone else. It's really important for the benefit of the scientific advancement and knowledge advancement to really for everyone to learn from everyone else. Our organization's mandate is supporting research in developing countries and low and middle income countries to find solutions and support finding solutions for development problems. Our role has been to really mobilize and connect with partner with our other Canadian research councils, the Canadian Institutes for Health Research, the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, to fund a number of research projects in low and middle income countries where women, particularly women and the young women, have shouldered the burden of COVID-19 in many countries. So we kind of led a coalition, so to speak, of the Canadian funding partners to design this $24 million initiative.
And one of the biggest heartwarming moments is meeting a beneficiary from Malawi and who said, "My eyes were so opened to how the world works. And this was one of the most useful projects I've ever been engaged in. And I learned a lot, and I'm still using that, even after IMCHA has closed shop and moved on." And that's what we aspire to, that we don't just run a project, that we build processes and systems that endure and survive and are sustainable beyond, a single project.
Our role as an HPRO is to facilitate the transfer of skills and capacity, in some instances for research itself. So we may end up doing training in different research skills, but then importantly, it is to facilitate how researchers are able to connect with decision makers in the transfer of evidence and knowledge for decision making.
So if you really want your research findings to resonate, for example, with women, it's important to understand, what are the different media that women pay attention to in the space that you're in. If you want it to reach policymakers, then many of them will go into the mainstream media platforms. What do those look like? What's their reach? What's their circulation? What's their readership? What's their viewership?
What GSMC's role is in all this is to play a critical role in building capacity with the 23 research teams from across the world on, how do you use media, how do you communicate, the findings to be able to influence policy and decision making, but also to be able to let the communities know about some of the findings that will emanate from the different studies. And that's the critical piece that, AKU GSMC brings into this whole project.
So how do we question gender norms? Because they are extremely difficult to question. Because the reason why they're extremely difficult to question, sometimes they are attached to biology. Like, there is always the assumption that because women carry pregnancy, then automatically they know how to look after children.
The whole world is imagining, how can we make it better for women? But so much of the work that is being done has excluded the women. How do we make sure that women participate? And when we talk about women's participation, we are not only talking about inclusion. When we are not only talking about involving women, we are talking about women being equal partners in the research processes, that women are also coming in as knowers. Like, women have epimistic justice. They have the right to construct their own reality through these research processes that are going on, that women can be able to inform research or to be researchers in their own right, to say this is what is knowledge based on our experiences, based on our stories, based on our lived realities. And so we are looking at solutions which center women's realities.
The focus of this project is on a gendered situational analysis of how the COVID-19 pandemic and other life events that, though different from the COVID-19 pandemic, share some similarities, such as childbirth, family and health emergencies. I mean, during those kinds of situations, women cannot go out to work as they did before. And so looking at how those events, significant life events, impact self-employed young women, their coping strategies, and working with self-employed young women to co-produce an intervention which can be scaled up that would help them have better supports to deal with these disruptive, significant life events.
We are asking in the current proposal project that we are engaged in. Given that in the past we have seen that cooperatives have helped people to cope with the crisis, the financial crisis, the economic crisis, and they have also helped people in dealing with those crises. How have the cooperatives then helped women to deal with the crisis, and particularly in coming out of it?
What happens is, as you know, that in Bangladesh, the driver of the economy is ready-made garments factory and other export-oriented factories. However, during the lockdown and during the COVID-19 pandemic, because of the interest of the economy, these factories needed to be opened. So that is why it actually posed additional challenges for these working women. So we wanted to learn about the challenges they faced, not only during the pandemic, but also about the aftermath. Because when they were in the factories, they could maintain some social distancing, some policies were there. However, when they came back to their community in the urban informal settlements, they could not maintain the social distancing, or because of they had to share the latrines and share the cooking spaces with other families. So lots of challenges they faced.
Our starting point for our research is the very low labor force participation of women generally in the Middle East, North Africa region, and including Lebanon, where we're based. And we were very concerned that during COVID, women who were working were very negatively affected by the situation because of the increased care burden that they had at home.
So the idea is to, as I said, right, with this investigation, is first to acknowledge what they mean, what they understand about resilience, because we don't want to change their thought. We don't want to try to to go there and say you have to say this or you have to think about it. So at the end, we wanted to know what is the situation again, because the things have changed a little, and then with that we are having this project. For example, we are having the web project, as I said, and then we're having another one that is related to lifting weights, for example. So everything is related again in a way that the people can be more confident about themselves, that they can feel more safe, that they can say yeah, I can take my own decisions, and I am the leader for myself and for my family as well.
What we want to study is two things. On one side is access to sexual and reproductive health, in particular during and after the COVID pandemic. And for that, we will have a qualitative component initially with focus group and interviews to key informants. And then we want to build a kind of prevention and care package dedicated to female sex workers, which is very rare in my country, to see if we can improve the access to sexual and reproductive health for this population.
I'm working with Burkina Faso team, so the team for Burkina Faso, and the title of our project is we will try to involve women and girls and women of informal sectors in the policy and the policy concern in their own concern. So we would like in this project to just engage decision makers and all the stakeholders to take in account the needs of girls and women of informal sector when they would like to put in place a decision concerning this vulnerable population.
A lot of people don't know that sub-Saharan Africa actually has the fastest growing seniors population in the world. And these seniors are raising the next generation. They're raising so many of the grandchildren, and they don't have any resources, no pensions, no health care, and there's no money to send the children to school because in Uganda there is not free primary education. So when this funding call became available, I spoke with both of my colleagues immediately, and I said, this funding is available, tell me what have been the major impacts on the communities, on women, as a result of COVID-19. And they both said without hesitation, teenage pregnancy, because the girls are not in school and there's been tremendous urban to rural migration, so many people coming back to the villages, so much pressure on women to provide for these growing families, and so much pressure on women and girls to do things like fetch water and cook food for these ever-increasingly large families. And so we are doing three things. We're going to go into both communities and do some surveys and ask the women, just how are you doing? And secondly, we're going to measure their levels of empowerment. And then we're going to take all those data and bring the women back together and say, now that we have all these data, how can we help you? What did these data mean to you? What do you need?